Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been sentenced to 21 years in prison for violating George Floyd's civil rights. Chauvin pleaded guilty last year to the federal charges after admitting he used excessive force as he knelt on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes, killing him. The former officer is currently serving 22.5 years for state criminal charges in Floyd's death. For more on this, I'm joined by Joe Tamburino. He's a criminal defense attorney at Caplan and Tamburino law firm. Joe, so good to see you. We've talked about this case many times. It's been a couple years now that he's been in and out of court for both civil charges, federal charges, state charges. Are you surprised by this most recent sentencing?
Yes, it is a little surprising for this reason. The judge had a sentencing range between 20 and 25 years. And basically, the judge gave him 20 years and 5 months. So he clearly went to the low end of that range.
Well, there was discussion about the fact that he was going to adhere to really showing remorse to George Floyd's family, and that was going to be a big piece of this. So I think it's not only surprising, but then when he did go to talk to George Floyd's family, he never really fully said he was sorry.
That's a great point, because think of it this way. He went through a whole plea agreement. Months ago, when he entered into his plea, he had a 15-page plea agreement where he said he intentionally did all these things to Mr. Floyd. Yet, on the day of sentencing, he never apologizes. So one must wonder, why did he plead guilty? Why didn't he not testify in the state trial if he wasn't going to say he's sorry and apologize now? So it was perplexing.
And I think those two are really, the main issues for the Floyd family when you look at it is that he got this lesser sentence in their mind. The judge did not take the maximum. He then doesn't say he's sorry. They're looking for closure. It sounds like they're very, angry over this. He had already been sentenced in the state case. What does this federal sentence really mean in terms of total prison time for him? It's just a little bit of an extension, isn't it, off the state sentence?
It is. Here's what it means. Since he's getting 20 years in federal court, that would basically be a little over 17 years after good time. In state court, he got 22.5 years, and after state rules for good time, he would serve 15 years. So basically, he's getting a couple of extra years. One must also recognize that these are concurrent sentences, which means they run together at the same time. He's basically not getting an extra chunk of prison with the federal case.
It's not that you stack the 20 years on top of the 20 years on top of whatever else. I think it's also interesting.
That's correct.
He's going to be moving from a state facility now where he's pretty much been in isolation to now a federal facility. What does that mean once he does that move?
Well, that's going to clearly be better for him, and here's why. Most people who have to serve a sentence, a prison sentence, will want federal custody rather than state custody because the federal government just has more programs available. They have all different types of programs. So I would imagine they'd put him in a federal facility outside of the state of Minnesota. I don't think it would be good for him, for his safety, to be here in Minnesota in a federal institution.
One of the main reasons we're talking about this, and it's still making national headlines, is because the death of George Floyd really did spark nationwide protests over police brutality and injustice. We're still seeing that play out in several cities, even right now across this country. I know that this was the latest for Chauvin. This federal trial has now wrapped up, but there are still some other legal battles that remain, right?
Yes, we have two of the co-defendants, Mr. Tao and Mr. King, who will be going to trial in state court here in Minneapolis in October of this year. They are facing charges just like Mr. Chauvin did, so their cases are still open.
All right. Well, sounds like we'll be talking to you some more then. Joe Tamburino, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.